Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. When it comes to age-old comedy, Leslie Townes Hope, or better known as Bob Hope, is the man that comes to mind, a man who spoke to and for the heart of the common man, a loving husband to Dolores Hope, and a father to 5 adopted children. Bob was equivalent to a national hero. However, little did people know the greedy man behind this perfect persona. Why Bob Hope decided to purchase pleasure as a married man. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Bob Hope, the infamous skirt chaser of old Hollywood. His start in 60 movies, played scores of bumbling fast talkers, brought cheers to the troops of 5 wars, written and published 12 books, holds 56 honorary doctorates, without ever finishing high school. He's been courted by royalty and dined with international leaders. Perhaps America's greatest comedian, who travelled far and wide across the globe to entertain servicemen. Under this facade of a perfect man was a man blinded by his lust and driven by primal urges. Bob had one of the longest marriages in showbiz history. He and his wife Dolores Reed Hope were married for almost 70 long years until his demise in 2003 at the very fragile age of 100. A marriage lasting almost 7 decades is remarkable and something for, perhaps, the history books. It was not in any way, shape or form a faithful bond. He has been described as a man with a high sexual prowess. His countless one-night stands were widely known, and he developed a reputation for being a womanizer. Known for his roles in the renowned The Paleface, Bachelor in Paradise and Road to Bali, the man was notorious for mingling with females on and off set. He appeared in vaudeville shows at a very young age, late teens perhaps, and started his 80-years-long career as a dancer. The life of a vaudeville gypsy was demanding, but Hope never complained. When he took his mother to the theatre to see the funny and dapper Frank Fell, one of his idols, she was not impressed in the least. In the middle of his act, he's killing the art, and she looked at me, and in a loud voice to be heard, 12 rows each side, she said, "He's not half as good as you." I'd ducked down, and people looked around to see who the hell is talking, and I know that was my dear mother trying to give me a little guts. He did his first Broadway show in 1927 with his partner Byrne, called Sidewalks of New York, which was a big hit. It was from then on it was Bob and his continuous achievements, and of course flings. He married his wife Dolores Reed in 1934, a woman who had caught his interest with her, as he said, low husky voice, soft and sweet. The irresistible Italian-American woman had Bob Hope in her siren-like grasp, and Lucille Ball, an American actress, once said, "The smartest thing Bob Hope ever did was to marry Dolores." And it seemed Lucille was to be proven right after many, many years, when the people were to witness that the America's USO representative and a symbol of hope was not all that he seemed to be. Famous actresses, showgirls and make-up girls were seen leaving the entertainer of the 20th century's hotel rooms. Bob Hope's story began in Wales in 1890, when a stonemason, Harry Howe, persuaded Avis Townes to give up a promising career as a concert and marry him. Things were well until Harry made a few bad investments and they lost most of what they owned. They were forced to move to Eltham, a lowly suburb in London, where on May 29, 1903, they welcomed their 5th son into the world, Leslie Townes Hope. Little Hope was the family's 5th baby, and a boy too at that, and was adored by the parents. Finding a better job at Cleveland with a promising future, Harry moved his wife and 6 boys there in 1906. Hope remembers the journey as a 3-year-old and says, "I remember running all over the place. I wouldn't let them vaccinate me." Charlie Chaplin was Hope's favourite ever since he could remember, as his mother would take him to vaudeville houses and the picture shows. He would entertain a large group of firefighters imitating Chaplin, and they would break in applause at the young boy's theatrics. Hope was always looking to make a buck or two, using his wits and charms to earn money. Was it the limited salary or rations that made the young boy crave pennies? Bob never graduated from high school and had a series of odd jobs in between, often spotted at the Alhambra pool hall. Bob's pal, Whitey Jenkins, signed up for boxing, and he spent a good amount of time at the East Cleveland YMCA, and here is what he had to say for it. I won my first fight because the guy I fought, every time I hit him, he looked to his corner for advice, and I slugged him again. At the urging of his friend, Charlie Cooley, he took up dancing, and he was a natural, eventually becoming an instructor. One of his female pupils, Mildred Rose Quest, was a beautiful young girl, and they soon became sweethearts. However, things didn't work out for them, and they soon separated and went their own ways. Hope had a series of male partners like Durbin and Byrne. Byrne and Hope worked primarily as dancers, throwing in humour whenever they could, and toured small cities around the East, doing 5 to 6 shows a day for $100 a week, doing his first Broadway act in 1927. Although the show was a major hit, the producers had had enough dancing in the show and had to let the fellas go. Hope and partner found themselves on the streets, but with a Broadway show to their credit. Soon after multiple shows, Hope's manager suggested he try solo work, since he was able to woo the audience with ease. So Leslie decided to change his name, and he chose Bob. Said it sounded chubbier. Now, with his new name, he interviewed in Chicago in 1928 with a lot of expectations. However, a lot of doors were closed in his face, and he was ready to quit. His friend, Charlie Cooley, worried about the state Hope was in, booked him at the Stratford Theatre for 3 days straight, and this was where he developed the Bob Hope style. He was once again a hit with the audience and signed up contracts with theatres and circuses, and he went on tours all around the USA. A few weeks later he went to Hollywood for his first screen test. He was not pleased with the way his nose looked. Despite his disappointing start in pictures, Bob was a big-time vaudeville headliner. Being on the USO tours and away from home in the late 30s, Hope could be considered a lonely man. However, he wasn't. These tours consisted of stand-up comedy shows for the US troops around the globe, wherever they were situated, and was a beacon of strength to them and something each man looked forward to. Although Bob had a soft spot for these men, doing these shows consumed a lot of his time, and he often longed for home and the touch of a woman. How would a wealthy, lonely, middle-aged man spend his time? Why? Filling it with women, of course. Multiple attractive and successful women. Hope was no poor man, and thought that there wasn't anything that could not be bought with money, so he decided to purchase pleasure. Hope dated many beauties of the 20th century, and would be seen around with almost all of them. One of his friends claimed that when they would go to his hotel room, there would be girls lined up outside, beautiful and youthful, waiting to be picked by him. Doris Day was one of his many famous flings. Doris Day was a young, attractive blonde woman, an American actress, singer, and animal welfare activist. She and Hope had a brief romantic affair in the year of 1949 while on tour, fundraising for the March of Dimes. Upon their return after the tour, when they landed in Burbank, Dolores was the first person to greet them, throwing her arms around Bob in an almost possessive way, giving him an over-the-top welcome-home hug. According to Bob, Doris says this was Dolores' way of marking her territory. The affair ended soon, and Day never acknowledged the alleged relationship. One of the many remarkable women Hope had an affair with was Barbara Payton, a blonde femme fatale. Payton was best known for her roles in noir films like Bad Blonde and Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye. Her relationship with Hope started in the spring of 1949 and lasted for several months. She followed Hope around the country and moved into an apartment he had rented for her in Hollywood. Their affair ended later that year, and Hope paid her to keep the affair a secret, which did not work well for him because she told a confidential magazine all about them in 1956. Marilyn Maxwell was a voluptuous, beautiful singer that Hope had dated. The singer-actress was Hope's girlfriend from 1950 to 1954, during which she co-starred with him in the films Off Limits and Lemon Drop Kid, while also joining him on tour with his USO shows and vaudeville acts. It seemed as if all of USA knew that the two were romantically involved. Publicist Frank Lieberman once said he had seen Hope and Maxwell check in for the night at a cheap motel. They were together so often that some people even began to refer to Marilyn as Mrs. Hope. Hope's affair with Ursula Halloran was a fairly open one. Ursula was a member of the staff who accompanied Bob on a trip to Russia in 1958. They were seen and photographed together publicly, going to high-end hotels. The affair was short-lived and lasted only for the duration of the trip. Rosemary Franklin, a Welsh beauty queen, was crowned Miss World by Bob Hope himself in 1961. He took the beauty queen on his 1961 Christmas trip to the Arctic and supported her when she moved to Los Angeles to pursue her dream of becoming a movie star. He even gave her a minor role in his 1965 film I'll Take Sweden. Rosemary and Hope continued their on and off affair for over 3 decades, and he reportedly once even called her the greatest love of his life. Any sane woman would certainly have an issue if her husband was seen with this many a woman, but why did Dolores Hope never protest? Dolores Reed joined Bob's vaudeville troupe in 1933 and started performing with him in Brooklyn. She was billed as one of society's favourite nightclub entertainers. Dolores claimed that she and Bob had got married in February 1934 in Pennsylvania. However, the author of Hope's biography, Richard Zoglin, pointed out that Bob was secretly married to Louise Troxell, his vaudeville partner. The time he claims to be married to Dolores, he was on his Broadway tours and far away from the place he got married to her. There are documents regarding Louise's divorce with Hope in 1934, which meant the marriage only lasted for a year. Peculiar thing is, there are no wedding photos of Dolores and Bob. Regardless, it is evident that Hope was a very important person in Bob's life, and the couple adopted 4 children together: Linda, Kelly, Eleonora and Tony. Hope had multiple, countless other affairs till the 70s with popular ladies like Jane Russell, Madeleine Carroll, Joan Fontaine, Dorothy Lamour, Paulette Goddard, and even Lucille Ball, as Zoglin claims in his 2014 biography. He had a different woman on his arm every night, from chorus girls to beauty queens, singers and actresses, and women in the business. Zoglin also says that Hope was mingling with these ladies well into his 80s, and according to him, Dolores knew all about his unfaithful and disloyal ways. As his daughter Linda said, she was sure her mother knew whatever was going on, but likely decided it was worth going through just about anything she had to in order to live with him as Mrs. Hope. Linda went on to say, "She didn't believe any of the other women had the same kind of significance to my father as she did." Was Dolores delusional, perhaps, relying on the fact that she would always be the one he would come back to? A reporter asked her in 1978 if she thought her husband was 100% true blue, but she replied, "I doubt it. I think he's perfectly human and average and all that." She is also reported to have said, "If it wasn't a good marriage, I'd never have stayed." Later life for Hope was a constant round of benefit dinners, personal appearances, and of course golf. He became a legend and a symbol of America itself. In the year 2000, at the age of 97, he was hospitalized for gastrointestinal bleeding and suffering from pneumonia in the following year. What is peculiar is that in 1998 a prepared obituary by the Associated Press was released inadvertently, resulting in Hope's death being announced on the floor of the US House of Representatives. However, Hope remained in relatively good health late in his old age, though he became somewhat frail in his last few years. On the morning of 27th of July 2003, Hope died of pneumonia at the age of 100 at his home in Toluca Lake, California, 2 months after his 100th birthday. A memorial high mass was celebrated at St. Charles Borromeo. The church is a few blocks from his house that he had helped build, and a memorial tribute was staged at the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences in North Hollywood. It was filled with remembrances from Hope's friends and professional colleagues. His last words were, in true Bob Hope fashion, witty and humorous. Towards his final moments, when his wife Dolores asked him where he wanted to be buried, the ever-hilarious Bob Hope, now feeble and weak, quipped, "Surprise me." Although Bob had spent his lifetime chasing countless women and having affairs, it was Dolores that stayed with him till his last breath. Wife or not, she was a constant companion and a true friend to Hope, one who could not be replaced, even by the most beautiful women of the time. Whether Bob deserved Dolores's faithfulness, kindness, love and compassion was unsure, but the woman was ready to give her all to him. If it wasn't for Dolores' constant companionship and support, Bob would not have been a successful man. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Bob Hope was surrounded by the most beautiful women in Hollywood, but there were two men who only really enjoyed each other's company. Were Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra in love with each other? Find out from this video.